Trying to go on Torah Direct.
Okay, I think we're getting there. Good morning, everybody. Can you see the screen?
Yes, Rabbi, I see it.
Can you see the screen? Okay, good. Okay, give us a minute. Let's get ready. Hope everybody's. Are you live on? Are we live on? Control the speed. Oh, my brother's live. Okay, I think we are. Okay, it's 10:02, 2 minutes late. Let's start. Let's start to learn some Chassidus. Today, Sunday morning, it's nice and raining out there. And we're holding on chapter 43 of Tanya. We are holding in the aspect right over here on the page. You can see it on the page on the screen, in the aspect of love, concept of Ahavha. So let's say that this Tuesday is Lag BaOmer, the celebration, I mentioned many times, celebration of Shimon Bar Yochai, who revealed to the world Nista the Torah, through the writing, through the teachings of the Zohar. And when it comes to the essence of the soul, which he revealed, the essence of the Torah, that's why there's no concept of sadness in his passing of great tzaddik, because as the Alter Rebbe in Tanya also writes later on, that when it comes to the aspect of the soul, then the soul leaves actually greater than when it was in the body, because the soul, through the elevation of the body and the work that it did with the body, has an elevation that it would never ever receive through it not coming down into the body. So as the story is told in the Zohar, that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, this great sage, he died with the word on his mouth. He said, when he said the word Chaim, life, when he said the word Chaim, he passed away. In essence, he wanted to tell his students, and they write the story, that he's alive, that the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is alive, because the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and any sage and any tzaddik, his life is not, as the Alter Rebbe writes, not Chaim B'Sorim. It's not only physical life, but his life is a spiritual concept to the world, and his life was a spiritual concept to himself. He didn't see his life as even at all as a physical aspect. He saw his life as a mission, as a godly purpose, and he lived that in the way he lived his life. And he lived that, he continues to live that. The soul never dies. The soul is nitzchias. The soul is everlasting. And that's why he called this day, like BaOmer, the 33rd day of Omer, on this coming Tuesday, he called the Yom Hilula, a day of celebration, that we should continue to celebrate the soul. We should continue to celebrate the soul, the godliness of the person, and his godliness. That if we would realize the godliness of the soul of this great Tana, we would ultimately realize our own godliness. That just like this Tana had a connection, this sage had a connection with his godly soul, so to each and every one of us could have a greater connection with our godly soul. So the Alter Rebbe, which is based on the teachings of the Zohar and of Shimon Bar Yochai, and many things that he mentions here are mentioned in the Zohar, and Arizal, who was one of the, also brought out the aspect of Kabbalah to the world. And over here in this chapter, Tanya, chapter 43 in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe talks about the two very important capacities that a human being has in the aspect of his intellect and the concept of his emotion. So we always learn, and we learned this many times, that there are esespheres. I was trying to find a picture to put on my screen. I couldn't find it for the life of me suddenly. So I just want you to imagine the esespheres, the 10 manifestations. So if you can imagine, if you look at the pictures, usually they show is 3, 3, 3, and the one on the bottom is 10. So you have 3, 3, 3 in a column of 3, like a segel, 3 dots, 2 and a third in the middle, like a segel, the Hebrew segel. The S sound in the Hebrew language is like the 3, 3, 3. So you have Chochmah on the right, Bina on the left, and you have Das in the middle. So it's like a segel, a triangle. So you have the Chochmah on the right, Chesed on the left, the Chochmah on the right, Bina on the left, wisdom on the right, Bina understanding on the left, and then they come to a middle, which is Das, which is knowledge. So those are the 3 capacities of intellect in a human being. Wisdom is the moment of inspiration, the concept of, as we mentioned in this chapter itself, Chochmah. The word Chochmah, wisdom, comes out. The episode stands for 2 words, which is Koyachma. What is it? So wisdom is the concept of the imagination, something that we always striving to acquire, to go deeper into, because even though that it's part of us, wisdom, but we realize, oh wow, this deeper, there's something higher to it. There's something that is out of our reach, and maybe if we can acquire that thing that's out of our reach, we can go higher in wisdom, and that's why we do go higher in wisdom. We continue to develop our wisdom, because if we are inquisitive and we want to learn, that's the aspect of learning. Learning never ends, because wisdom never ends. It's continuous, and that's why it's called the Chachma of the Torah. Kulam b'Chachma sisa. It says, the verse says, everything is made with wisdom, and we continue to go in deeper and deeper in wisdom, and we do that in secular, and surely in the Torah we should go with the Torah of wisdom, the wisdom of the Torah, and so you should go in wisdom, secular wisdom. People should continue to thrive in wisdom, and it's never ending. And what was thought yesterday can be thought different today, because you can have a greater wisdom today, and we mature and go in wisdom. And then we have to bina, we come to our understanding. So wisdom is something that is, so to say, above us a little bit, maybe a lot, and understanding is more something that I understand. So now I take this wisdom and I bring it down to my understanding, and together these two entities are called Avein, father and mother. So father, and that's why you say the masculine is Chachma, and the feminine is Bina, is understanding, and together through their unity, which is Das, that's the unity of wisdom and understanding. So with wisdom, while I understand, that's why the most very important, the concept of understanding, the way I understand something, the way I comprehend it, that's the way it's going to become my knowledge. And that's why Das is the third entity, but it's in the middle, because it's called the unifier. Together with that, when they are unified in Das, when I have a Das, a knowledge, when it becomes my knowledge, they give birth to Das. Knowledge gives birth to 2 entities, and that is the next 3 rungs, which is Chesed and Gevura. Chesed to the right, Gevura to the left. That's why we always reach out our hands to the right, and we push away with our left hand, unless you're a lefty. So we reach out with our right. Chesed is the right. Yemini tichapkein, it's a verse. With my right hand, God says, I hug you. I hug you with my right, which is chesed, the concept of chesed. So they go to the second rung, which now the chesed and gevura, and the third is tiferes, is beauty. So Sunday today is chesed, Monday is gevura, Tuesday is tiferes, is beauty. In the Torah, you find on the first day God said it was good. On the second day, He doesn't say anything because it's gevura, separation of the waters. And on the third day, God is tiferes, beauty, which is pamayim kitoiv on Tuesday. This Tuesday, which is Lag Ba'omer, in the Torah, it says double good. It says double good because Tuesday is the good of Monday and the good of Tuesday. Tiferes brings out the beauty of severity. It brings the chesed and the gevura together. When you have the unity of chesed, the kindness, and gevura, the severity, when you bring it together, you have beauty. If you have the conflict of chesed and gevura, if you have the conflict of the kindness and severity, you can't have beauty because each one is in conflict with the other. So we need to bring what's called in Kabbalah Hiskalos, the unity, and that's the third day. We have the also expression that the verse we say in our davening every day. When you have two verses that argue one with the other, comes a third verse and brings unity between the other two verses, and that's the beauty of the number three, which brings one is oneness, two is automatically a separation, and three brings unity between the two. And that's the basic principle. I mean, another rung of that's a Chod Yesod and Malchus, which is with another topic. Over here, the Alter Rebbe is talking about the aspect of Chesed and Gevura, the aspect of which you can also translate into Ahavha and Yira. Ahavha, love of God, and Yira, fear of God. And the Alter Rebbe said in the beginning of this chapter that there's two levels of fear. There's Yira Ilah and Yira Tata. There's the low, I just flipped it over. There's a lower level of fear, Yira Tata, the lower level of fear, and Yira Ilah, the higher level of fear. And the difference is that Yira Tata is the fear of the world, and we have a fear of reward and punishment, and we see the power of God within the world. And then you have Yira Ilah, which is the aspect of my respect of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I understand God, not that I'm afraid of his actions, so to say, or his powers, but I have a respect of the Eibishter, of God himself. And now the Alter Rebbe goes in the aspect of Ahavha, in the concept of love. Beautiful part of Tanya. And we started last week this concept, but let's start it again so we can have a full picture. So we have in you see it. I'm going to move up the page as we go, and we're gonna follow on the page. I'm going to mute somebody. So if you can mute yourself when you come on. So okay. So you have the Alter Rebbe says you have this concept of in Ahavha. So we can follow together. We can learn together in the Tanya. We can follow it together in this page. So the Alter Rebbe says, "V'nei Ahavha." Now in love, there are two grades. There are two grades of love. Ahavah Rabbah and Ahavas Olam. There's a great love and there's a worldly love. Ahavah Rabbah, and what's the difference? What's the difference between these two loves? It says Ahavah Rabbah, Ahavah Tanugim. Ahavah Rabbah, a great love, is the concept of the love of delight. Delight. I have a delight in godliness. And what means this light, this love of delight? So the Alter Rebbe says, and it's a fierce flame that rises itself. Ahavah Rabbah is as he's going to say, is a gift that we are all given. That we have a love, we have a deeper love, a love of God that it comes from our essence, from our kishkes, that we have this Ahavah to the Eibishter. We have this love to the Eibishter, to God. We have a connection to God because we have a deep respect of who God is. You can have the same thing in a relationship between the man, between a relationship between one another, between a man and woman, ish v'isha, as the Alter Rebbe say over here, the masculine and the feminine, that we fall in love. We fall in love. We call it bashert, right? We say, wow, why did I fall in love? Why did we two fall in love? Even though there were maybe practical reasons why we fell in love. Maybe there were outer reasons why we fell in love, that we like what each other gives, or we like each other's presence. But then there's a much deeper concept in our love, that we just like each other. Being with each other gives each other some kind of a delight, some kind of a happiness, right? If I being around you gives me satisfaction. It's not what you bring to the table or you don't bring to the table. Thus, your presence gives me some kind of tranquility. We can see that also in the presence of other people, not only of our spouses, as we see by in the presence of righteous people, that when you're in the presence of righteous people, they bring a certain tranquility to your life. Their presence. It was said, when you were in the presence of the Rebbe, for example, you didn't even have to understand what he said. That you were in his presence, he automatically brought about this concept of a delight in your existence. And there was no need to understand what he said or not. Thus, he exuberated, I don't know the right English word, the aspect of royalty, of holiness. And that brought about an automatic response within our being. And so too, you can have that in your life. A certain person or a certain being automatically brings about some kind of a happiness in your life. Now you can also reach that when you're in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. People have told me they come to shul, they feel a certain tranquility just being in the synagogue. It brings about some aspect of reverence in their life. It's something, an inner connection that they have when they come in the presence of such a place. And you have to have that feeling. When you see that expression by Yaakov Avinu, when Jacob was slept in a certain place, and he says, wow, how awesome is the place. This place is an awesome place. I feel the reverence of the place. Even though that was the place of the Holy Temple, and there was no Holy Temple at that time there. The Holy Temple was brought there many hundreds, thousands of years later. But Jacob felt the presence of the place. He felt the reverence of the place. And we have that in place, in time, in space. We are always come to, like people tell me, they go to the kotel and they feel the reverence of the place. They feel that, wow, how awesome, how reverent this place is. It's a wall. It's a stone wall. But for some reason, that stone wall brings about, shines from that some aspect of reverence. And it touches the essence of our soul. It comes from itself. See, that's why the Alter Rebbe, this fierce flame that arises from itself. It arises from itself. It's not something that I worked on, per se, but it's just a natural kind of a feeling. And that's why, and it comes as Alter Rebbe from above by the way of a gift to him, who is perfect in fear. So in essence, I have to have some kind of reverence in my life to be able to come and see that reverence. If I was a nobody, then I wouldn't have, and I would come and see the wall and I wouldn't have any reverence. If I was just a nobody, maybe I would come to the presence of a righteous person and I wouldn't have that kind of a reverence. It says in the Mishnah, Ein bar, ein am oretz chosid, ve'ein bar yorechet. An ignoramus cannot be a pious person, and an empty vessel cannot have fear. So you cannot be an ignoramus and an empty vessel, a bird. We need to have some aspect of reverence. We need to have some concept of wow that we need respect. We need an aspect of humility in a way to have this concept of to be able to feel the holiness of the place, to be able to feel the spirituality of the place. You know, in synagogues, you walk into a synagogue, it says, in many synagogues on the ark, it says, know before you who you stand. Do you understand who you're standing at this present time? Do you comprehend you're in shul? And who is standing in the shul? Who is in front of the shul? It's not the rabbi, it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's God. Do you have reverence? Sometimes if you show disrespect, it shows who. It's not a shame to the shul. If a person shows disrespect in a synagogue, it's not the fault of the synagogue. It's the fault of the person that has no reverence, that doesn't comprehend. He's just immature to realize the reverence of who he's with, or what in a place that he's in, and understand that concept. That's why the Alter Rebbe says it comes to the way for above a gift to him who is perfect and fair. As is known, the saying of the rabbis of blessed memory, but the way of a man is a search for a woman. So as in the spiritual terms, love is called man, a male, as it's written, he's remembered in his loving kindness. So these are all expressions, these are all masculine. Zecher Chazdei, the Alter Rebbe is using a verse, Zecher Chazdei, remembrance of his loving kindness, which is all masculine words. So the concept of Chachma, as I mentioned before, and Ahavha, Chesed, is all masculine. And then it says, V'isha Yiras Hashem, and while a woman symbolizes the fear of God as it's known. So the masculine is there to search for the feminine. We are there to search for the yira, the reverence in something. That's an obligation of humanity. And we're talking about humanity, man and women, is the concept of the masculine with their masculinity is there to search for the feminine, for the aspect of the reverence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's in our nature to have reverence. It's in our DNA that we should find reverence of God. We should have humility. We should have respect. We should be mature ourselves in this concept of life.
Rabbi, I have a question.
That's what?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So it says that the way of a man is to search for a woman. So that's supposed to be Bnei Yisrael searching for Hashem?
Right, correct.
So that means Hashem in the feminine portion of Hashem.
Correct. That's why we say every Friday night, Eishes Chayil mi yimtza. Where we're searching for the Eishes Chayil. But the problem is we're searching in the wrong places. That's why it says at the end of the Eishes Chayil, we say, Sheker achein vehev alayofi, Isha Yiras Hashem hi tesala. We are looking for as masculine, we sometimes look for the outer trappings and not for the inner trappings. That's why it says in the aspect of a shidduch, it says, Bachur sana inecha. Don't look at the outer trappings, even though that's the natural way of things that we do that. But really, you need to look at the inner essence of things, the feminine aspects of things.
So we're talking about. I'm wondering about. We're talking about the feminine aspect of Hashem.
Correct.
That's the yearning.
Right. Correct. That is the neshama deraisa. You're also looking. We can look at the reward and punishment, and we can look at what is the relationship, which is a feminine aspect of the Torah. And we'll always look at the masculine concept of the Torah,
right?
Which is the Eibush is going to reward you, or God's going to punish you. And the Eibush says, "Ladas Hashem." You have to go deeper, and that's true. There is the masculine part of the Torah. Nobody's going to argue with that. But there's neshmasei deraisa. There is the spiritual side of the Torah. That's why neshama is feminine. So we are all feminine in the name of neshama. The Shechina is feminine. Torah is a feminine word. So Torah, neshama, shechina, all these words are feminine because it's really to look for the feminine part of the word, which is the over here the ava rabba tanugim lisaneg halavaya. I have the tainug of the Eibishter. So I have the delight of the presence of God. Not that I have fear of God because I'm afraid that He's a powerful entity. But
that would be the male aspect, right?
That's the male aspect. I'm looking for the female aspect. So, but the Alter Rebbe says even the male concept of the human being is searching for the it's in essence that he searches for the feminine, which translates into the physical too. That it's the male concept, it's the masculine that needs to impress upon the feminine to make that relationship with him. It's the obligation, open halacha in a practical way, that it's the male that has to kiyikach ish isha. It's the male who has to acquire that the feminine. He has to entice the feminine. He has to inspire the feminine. He has to make the relationship to feminine. That's a kedushin in a practical way. It's the man's obligation to makadosh and isha. It's his obligation. He has to do it. If you go the other way, then it's not going to be a perfect union because it's not in the way the Eibishter created it, in the masculine and the feminine. So therefore, it needs to be done in a way that the masculine acquires the isha, the masculine searches for it, he desires it, he wants it, not only because of its outer trap, because he realizes that without the feminine, he's not a complete entity. Not only he's not a complete entity, he's not a perfect entity. He's a failed entity. He's a flawed entity. So the Chesed realizes, even though Chesed is wonderful, Chesed, and that's Avraham Avinu, but Chesed realizes that he's flawed without Gevurah, without Yitzchak. He is flawed. He's missing something. There's missing something in his Chesed, and therefore that's why. And the Eibishter put it in the Lebanon says that God put it into the being, into the DNA of the masculine, to search for the feminine side of its being. And that's why the Alter Rebbe says this is a matana. The Eibishter gave us a matana, which we mentioned in the previous in Tanya, the Ahavha Misoteres. The Eibishter God gave us an Ahavha Misoteres, a hidden love. We have all this hidden love, thank God, to God. So even though we seemingly are not so in search, or we're seemingly not so in love, but it's part of our love. We always can find love. So even though we're in a physical way, we might have abused us, and maybe we fell out of love, but we never fall out of love. We always can find love in our life, and it's never ending. It's not an age kind of a situation, and it should never be an age situation. So we can always find love in our life. We always can find physical love in our life, and we should always surely find spiritual love in our life. So this is the beauty of the Alter Rebbe says. So the Alter Rebbe says without the prerequisites of fear. So therefore, that's why we need to have reverence in our life. It's so important to reveal this love. There needs to be reverence. You need to have reverence. You need to have bittul, a little bit humility, to be able. So you have to be opened, in essence, to find this femininity, to find this isha in us, this feminine aspect within us. We have to have reverence. If we're bullies, or we are arrogant, that's why it's a very interesting expression. God says, I can live with everybody, but I can't live with an arrogant person. That means if I have too much masculine in the room, I cannot have a feminine reality because it's too much arrogance. I need the concept of humility in the room a little bit. So I understand that you have some arrogance, and we all have arrogance, but there's got to be a little bit of reverence. There needs to be a little bit of yira to be able to reveal this true Ava, to be able to reveal this reverence. It's impossible. if I'm an egotistical person, to be able to reveal this Ava in my life. So that's why it says, without the prerequisite of fear, it's impossible to attain the level of Ava Rabba. It's not possible. So I need to have some aspect of reverence to be able, and respect, or whatever, however you want to translate the word, some gevura, to be able to reveal the chesed of the Eibishter. That means the Eibishter, if you want to go in the aspect of God, the Gemara says that the Eibishter is chesed. The Eibishter is chesed. The teva tev lahetiv. And the aspect of kindness is to show kindness. The problem is that kindness needs a vessel. It needs to have some place to come into. And if there's no reverence, then the kindness has no place to come. The Abish has no place to come. That's why the expression, the Kotzker Rebbe said, where's God? Where you want him. You know, if I don't want him, he's not going to be there. So, I mean, the Abish is everywhere, but the aspect of to feel God, I won't have it. Because I don't want him. I'm not interested in this situation. So it's hard to have the aspect of this revelation of chesed. So to be able to reveal God in my life, to be able to have this Avid Tanugim, there needs to be reverence. There needs to be some aspect of reverence in our life. And now the Alter Rebbe continues, and we just can look further. So he says further, it is impossible to attain the level of Avodah. For this love originates from the realm of Atzilus. See, the Alter Rebbe says this love is such a great love. Where does this love come in? That's why it's such a musuteres. That's why it's so hidden within us. Because this love is such a pure love. It's such a pure entity, this love, that it comes from in the realms of spirituality. It comes from the realms of Atzilus. It's the highest world in Kabbalah, the world of Atzilus, the world of emanation, which is a whole subject we covered it many times in Tanya. The four, so to say, worlds, the levels, and the way the ishtalshus, the way the Ein Sof, Ein Sof, the infinite aspect of God comes into the world. And the world of Atzilus is called the world of emanation, or in Hebrew, it's Atzilus means Eitzel. It's the closest concept to purity, and therefore we're in. It's no sundering or separation, God forbid. So there you have a love of the Eibishter because of its connection to God, and therefore this Ava cannot be affected, cannot be tainted, and that's why sometimes it needs to be hidden. It needs to be closed in to a human being because we don't want it. It cannot be tainted, and the more a person is arrogant and selfish, you cannot reveal this Ava. It's hard for him to reveal this Ava because this Ava is a spiritual, pure entity. How can a pure entity come into a filthy vessel? So we need to cleanse the vessel. We need to try to cleanse our vessel, which is our body, our character, to be able to accomplish this Ava. You know, it's fascinating that I saw, you counted the Sfira Sa'ima. And really the aspect, what is Sfira Sa'ima today? Why are we counting the Omer today? We don't have the Omer. Counting the Omer was the counting to really in the Torah, was after the counting of the days to the giving of the Omer, which was on Shavuos. So, but we don't do the Omer. We don't have the Korban Omer today. We don't give an Omer at the end of our counting. So we call it Sfira Sa'omer, the counting of the Omer. Well, when it comes to the actual 50th day, we're not giving a Korban Omer. We're in Boka. Or even in Israel, the Jews in Israel are not bringing a Korban Omer. There's no Beis HaMikdash. So why are you counting the Omer, really? There's no Omer. So we are counting, we're counting to the Zeicha. Some people say, some sages say we're counting to the Zeicha, the Beis HaMikdash, to what they used to do in the temple. They used to bring the Omer. The truth is we can even go closer. We're counting like the Jews who went out of Mitzrayim. When the Jews went out of Mitzrayim, they said, where are we going? And the Abish said, you're going to Matan Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu said, we're going to Matan Torah. We're going to receive the Torah. That's our journey. They asked them, so they asked Moshe Rabbeinu, when are we going to get there? What is the timeline? As Jews always need another timeline. And the Eibishter and the Moshe Rabbeinu answered them 50 days. It's going to take us 50 days. In 50 days, we're going to receive the Torah. The Jewish people were so excited to this 50 days. They started to count 50 days, started to count every day in their anticipation and yearning for receiving the Torah. Now, if you know the history and you can look at it in the Torah itself, you know that many things happen in that 50 days. From the time of going out of Mitzrayim until the 50 days. There was troubles and there was arguments and there was complaints. But nevertheless, even though the Jews complained and they went through different issues of their complaints of their journey, they never stopped counting the 50 days. So what does it show? Even though they had complaints against God and against Moses, and they struggled with that aspect of their connection and their relationship and their journey, but they always had a desire for those 50 days. They never stopped counting for Matan Torah. That's going to happen in 50 days. And that's our counting. Our counting is that even though we're in Gullus, and we're not giving the Omer, we're not giving the Omer in 50 days, my friends. Mitcham, hopefully Mashiach will come and we will give the Omer on Shavuos. We'll be in Eretz Yisrael, and the Beis Hamikdash will be built, and we'll give the Omer. But last year when we counted, we didn't give the Omer. But nevertheless, we counted. We have a desire of Matan Torah. We have a desire of Matan Torah, to receive the Torah again. We have the desire to learn Torah. We have the desire to connect to the Torah, even though we're in Gullus. We are in exile, and we don't have all the trappings of the spiritual revelations of all the mitzvahs that we're doing, all the mitzvahs that we're trying to do. We don't have these spiritual trappings, but nevertheless, we have a love to it. We're counting the Omer. We're counting the days. When are we going to come to Shavuos? When are we going to come to the giving of the Torah again? Isn't that amazing? So the yearning of the Jews in the desert continues to the yearning of the Jews today in the world, and to us sitting here in Boca. We count the days. We are waiting for the days that every day, today is the 31st day of the Omer. We have 31 days past. And what happens when we come to the end of the counting? In the Torah itself, what happened when the Jews came to the end of the counting of the 49 days? It says, "Vayichan Yisrael ki ish echad b'leiv echad." It says the Jewish people encamped around the mountain like one person, like one heart. That means that even though they had struggles with God and but their yearning for the Torah was equal, and they all were there as one. Were they perfect entities? No. We see right away after that they sinned with the golden calf. It didn't take long for them to sin. But were they all had a desire? Was their desire and their yearning affected? No. And that's why we continue to do that, even in Gullus. Because are we perfect? No. But we have Ahavha Meseteres. We have this yearning desire to have the relationship with God and to connect to God through the Torah, through the wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have that inner desire. And that inner desire you cannot take away from anybody. You cannot diminish that inner desire that each and every one of us have. And that was, again, the greatness of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and the greatness of Kabbalah, when she revealed this concept of this inner desire, this Ahavha Meseteres, that each and every one of us has to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to connect to the Torah, to count the days. When are we going to reach this level? That inner yearning never ends. So, but again, how are we going to be able to reveal a greater connection? Is just like in the counting of the Omer. When we count the Omer, we mention every day that we're rectifying our midas. We're bringing reverence to our being. The more we bring reverence, I don't want to use the word fear. I want to use the word reverence. I want to use humility. Fear is in the world a negative thing. I want to use the word reverence, even though it is based on the concept of fear. So that's the beauty. That's the beauty of Ahavah Rabbah. If we can all reach up to Ahavah Rabbah, We can reveal our true entity, our true Ava to the Eibishter. We can reveal our true Ava to each other. That's Avas Yisrael, to reveal our true Ava to one another. We have difficulties with each other. We struggle with one another, but we really love each other. In our essence, we really love each other. You take away the Nanishkeit, we love each other. You have two Jews, you have two opinions. That's the way it is. But we should never lose respect of one another. That was a sin of the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva, who lost the respect of one another, lost the reverence. Once the Shenagu Kavit Zebazeh, they decided that their love is based on each and every one of them, being like each other. And that brought about a negative concept in their being. Because they didn't respect one another. So that's after that. So that's Ava Rabba. That's Ava Rabba. The Ava Rabba is that when we say that if we want to bring it down to a practical, like a man and a woman, a chassan and kala, we say we're bashet. How do you know you're bashet? I don't know. It feels that way. We were made for each other. We were in different worlds. We were brought up different ways. Doesn't make a difference. We could be brought up in two different worlds and two different realities, but for some reason we were drawn to one another. Out of all the thousands and millions of people, we were drawn to one another. We have an infinite. We have some kind of I don't know what the word. We have some kind of attraction to another Jew, in a way. We feel the pain of another Jew. Why? I don't know. Because we have this inborn oneness between each other. It's an inborn oneness that each and every one of us has with each other. The Alter Rebbe continues and says, Avas Olam, however, is a second and lower level of love, in which is that which comes from understanding and knowledge of the greatness of God. So Ava Rabba comes from Chochmah. Ava Rabba comes from, I have a attraction that's above my understanding. We are just one. I can't live without you. You and I need each other. Ahavti eslam aman Hashem. The Eibush says, I love you, and I say back to God, Ve'ahavta Hashem lekach. I love God. Singular. I love God. I love God with all my heart, all my soul. I have this Ava to the Eibush. But then we have a lower level of love. And that's Avas Olam. And that's from the word Olam. Avas Olam. The Ava that comes from the world. So what does that mean? Ava Habom is a love which comes from understanding and knowledge of the greatness of God, of the blessedness, who fills all the worlds. The Eibishter fills the worlds, animating them with a permeating mode of vitality, which is limited, tailored to the capacity of each creature, and encompasses all the worlds, animating them with a vitality which transcends them, not being limited to the world of created beings it animates. So you have these two concepts, memali kolam, soiva kolam. I understand with my brains, with my understanding, that God fills the world, God is part of the world, and it becomes one with the world, because a creation needs a creator. The Eibishter needs to say, let there be light constantly. The world, as a Gemara expression, the Talmud, every blade has a malach that says grow. So that's memali kolam, the way that God fills the world. At the same moment, with my understanding, I understand that God is infinite. And God is soif of kolam. He encompasses, he encompasses the world, and he transcends the world. Soiviv kalam, the halo expression. So God is within the world at the same moment he is above it. So that's these two concepts, Mamala Kalam Masev, and I can understand that. I should be able to come with my comprehension. It's one of, even the Rambam Mani says, it's one of the commandments of God. Anochi Hashem Elekecha. I am God, your God. It's a mitzvah in the Torah to know God. It's not a mitzvah in the Torah to have only the wisdom of God, but actually to know Him. So I can have the wisdom of God in a way. I just read the Torah, and that's the wisdom of God. If I comprehend it or don't comprehend it, I can be a parakeet and just repeat to you what it says. Do I understand it? No. I'm just repeating to you. I'm a tape recorder, and I can be that tape recorder of God. And then God says, no, I want you to know me. I want you to understand me. And that is Ahavha. Understand God, each and every one of us, to our level. We can't say, oh, I'm going to wait until I'm going to be a sage to know God. It doesn't say that in the Torah. People make a mistake. And they think, oh, to know God, spirituality is, have to be first know the Chumash, and then I have to know Gemara, and then I have to know. I'm not teaching you Kabbalah here, in a way. I'm not teaching you the hidden secrets of Kabbalah because I don't know it. I'm teaching you things that we can understand. It's not something that I'm teaching you the hidden secrets of Shin Chai. Those hidden secrets, I can repeat what says in the Zohar, but I cannot tell you what it means, and many things. So I can teach you, say things what the Zohar says. There's a book that's written by Avraham Avinu, Sefer Yetzirah. I can repeat what says over there. I don't know what he's talking about. Okay, so to repeat things, we all can repeat things. We can repeat things that says in the Torah. We can say, this is what the Torah says. I don't know. Even the Torah things, the Chukim, the Torah. I don't know. The Torah says keep kosher. I don't know why. That's the Torah. So even in the Torah it says certain things that I don't know why. This is what the Torah says. I'm repeating what the Torah says. So the Torah says you got to keep kosher. Why? Go to God. I don't know. He wants a Jew to keep kosher. Ask him why. But there are most things in the Torah are not chukim. I can understand and I comprehend what it's alluding to, what the Eibishter wanted to accomplish, what is the purpose. And God says it openly, like He just went through Pesach. The Eibishter says open the Torah exactly why you should keep Pesach, and what He wanted to accomplish, and what He wanted, the aspect of transmission to children and grandchildren, great grandchildren, this concept of liberty and going out of goals, etc., etc. Even though we can go to the deeper concepts of this and we can go higher, but still there's a simple meaning of it, of why we keep it and what's the purpose of us doing it and why we're doing it. Understand? So we can ultimately come to the reasoning of it. And the Eibishter wants you to come to the reasoning of it. And that's the mitzvah. The mitzvah of the Torah is to know God. Now you might say, but I didn't learn Aleph yet. Where does it say in the Torah you shall know God if you learn Aleph? Where does it say in the Torah that first you need to learn Aleph to know God? It says you need to know God. You need to know God. And there's a mitzvah in the Torah, whether if you know Aleph or don't know Aleph, to have a knowledge of God to every person in their capacity. So self-understood, if you knew Aleph and you knew Chumash and you knew Gemara and you knew Halacha, you would understand God deeper, and you would have a knowledge of God in a greater capacity. But where does it say that I first need to know that to know God? It doesn't say any of that. So therefore, we are all obligated to have a comprehension of God, the way God fills the world, and the way God is encompassing the world, each person's way of our understanding, each person's capacity of his understanding. And ain't they same Shabbos, the Gemara says, no two people understand something the same. So we need to each take our understanding and learn and learn and learn until we each understand godliness a little bit more. And maybe I will never come to the understanding of godliness as Rabbi should have, and that's not my journey. I don't need to come to that understanding. I need to come to the understanding of Zalman Bukiet. And that's the level I need to come to. To the highest capability of my understanding, I need to learn and learn and learn and try to come to a great understanding of my level of understanding. I will not have somebody else's brain. I have my own brain. And therefore, I should be careful not to overexert that either. Not to overexert my burn out the fuse of my brain. I need to be able to understand it and to comprehend it and to bring it into my knowledge, not to be fake it. That's what Dr. Edmund Tanya always says, don't fake it. You have to have your MS and live life and learn to your capacity, not somebody else's capacity. So this obligation of Avas Olam is something that each and every one of us needs to work on, to learn godliness. And this learning will bring us to love of the Ahavha. The more we're going to learn, the more we will have Ahavha to God. And if you're not going to learn, you're not going to have this Ahavha. So like it's in the world thing, in the worldly things. I can have Ahavha to cake because I know what cake does for me. So I have a love to cake, and I eat cake. And but then I can think about it and say, wait a second, cake is not so healthy. So even though I have a love to it, maybe I should love healthier things, healthier foods, and I can transform my thought to have a different kind of love, to be able to have love of more healthier foods. And now I've lost my love for cake. I've now got a love for healthier foods. And to be able to do that, yes, Moshe. I mean, Paul, I'm sorry, Paul's Moshe. Yeah, Moshe. Yeah, Moshe Rabbeinu also had that journey. Every Jew has a journey. Even Tzaddik has that journey to have an experience. Moshe Rabbeinu, through experience of life, I create a greater love of HaKadosh Baruch. I create a go. What life experience allowed Moshe Rabbeinu? Life experience. He stood up for the Jewish nation. That was number one, his first experience. He went out to see the pain of his brothers. That was Moshe Rabbeinu in the Torah's first experience of him realizing that there's more to life than living in a palace. And he could have lived in this palace his whole life. Moshe Rabbeinu went out. He saw the pain of his brothers, brought him to action, and got him into a lot of trouble. And but that was his first experience. And so too his experience went from level to level till he became the Moshe Rabbeinu at 80 years old. Moshe Rabbeinu came Moshe Rabbeinu at 80 years old. It was a journey. So Avraham Avinu had a journey. Each and every one of us has our journey in life. Each and every one of us has our journey in life. And our journey in life comes from our understanding of life. And if we can also, and just like we learn from life itself, we learn from life itself what our journey in life is, we can learn from the Torah what our spiritual journey in life is, which will ultimately change our physical journey in life. Because ultimately the way I understand something changes me in the way I look at the world. The more I can understand something in a spiritual way and comprehend things in a more spiritual concept, it will ultimately transform the way I think about the world. So it's my emunah and bitachon. The more I have emunah Hashem and bitachon in the Ahavha, that's why you have faith of God and trust in God. Faith of God is more chachma, trust in God is more bina. So the more I have trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, my faith brings to trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That not only do I have faith in God, and so to say, an uncomprehended concept, I bring it to trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I trust in God. And I understand that everything that is happening is all in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all there. God is running the world. And ultimately has control of everything that's happening in the world. And so that is the second aspect. So when a kulakar make I have three concepts that out the episodes over here. The Ahavha fills the world. The Ahavha God fills the world. God at the same time is above the world, and then and before him, and before whom everything is counted as nothing at all. ultimately everything is nothing. And that's in, so I can come to that comprehension. If I understand the creator and the creation, as my Maimonides explains it. If I ultimately come to that concept, which that's what we learned from Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu came to the aspect of God for himself. He didn't have any teachers. He didn't have parents who taught him God. Actually, his parents were idol worship. So he came to the aspect of knowing God on himself, by himself. And we all brought up the stories, looked at the sun, and then they looked at the moon, and then they looked at the mountains, and they looked at the winds, and they ultimately realized that everything is a creation, and there has to be a creator. There has to be an entity that is a creator. So he came to, with his own seichel, with his own intellect, to realize that. And if you understand that everything is a creator, then you understand that the creator is above creation. And not only is the creator above creation, but ultimate creation is nothing to the creator. Because if you understand the concept of creator and creation, you understand that the creation needs its creator and the creator needs nothing. So if the creator needs if the creation needs a creator, then ultimately the creation is nothing. And that's the wording over here. Kulei kamei klachshiv. Everything is nothing at all. The Moshe Rabbeinu expressed in the Torah in a little different way. He said, Ein od milvadai. He said to the Jews, there's nothing but God. There's nothing. If this is the same wording of the Alter Rebbe, we can come to this gradually from the way God, understand the way God fills the world, the way God is at the same time above the world, and therefore ultimately everything Ein od milvadai, everything is nothing. So why is it a something? Because God wants it to be a something. That's why it's a something. It's not a something because it has its own entity. It is there because of its own powers, its own creativity. No, it's there because it was created. And therefore, ultimately, and as the Alter Rebbe said, the bittul, and it's like the nullity of an utterance within the intelligent soul, while still in its thought or in desire of the heart, as explained earlier, as the Alter Rebbe says, you can bring an example of a human being's speech, that one word is nothing to the essence of his neshama. It's nothing. It has no value. And at the same time, it's precious. Every word is precious. But in the essence of the soul, it's nothing, one word. So the Alter Rebbe says, as a result of such contemplation, so if we would learn this and we would contemplate it, and we would have to ask yourself a serious question. We all have to ask yourself a serious question. How much time do you take a day to think about God? Seriously, how much time do you take a day to think about godliness? To just think about these concepts, what we're learning here today. You can learn it today, this concept. This is a Tanya. The Alter Rebbe wrote a Tanya a couple of years ago. Based on Kabbalah and the Zohar, the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, based on the Torah. So, but the thing is that we don't contemplate it. We don't think about it. And the question is, we need to take every day, a couple of minutes a day, and to think about these aspects, to understand these aspects in the Torah. Why do we need to do that? Besides, it's a mitzvah to learn Torah. The Alter Rebbe says, I'm going to give you a practical reason why you should do that. As a result of such contemplation, the attribute of love, which is in the soul, will, as a matter of course, divest itself of its garment, which it has previously worn. The Alter Rebbe says you're going to automatically have a greater love of God than a greater love of the world. And the truth is, we don't live in a vacuum. We either have a love of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, God, spirituality, godliness, or we have a love of worldly things. And there are garments that we wear. We learned that in the beginning of Tanya. We wear garments. Soul has garments. 3 basic garments to the soul: machshava, dibur, umaisa. Thought, speech, and action. These are the 3 garments to our soul. We can either garment our soul with mundane matters and physical matters, and that's what's important to us. And therefore, our soul gets diminished and purpose gets lost because we have garment ourselves with all these physical attributes and that's the most important thing in our life, and everything else is not important, and that drives us crazy, and that makes us nuts, and we cannot function, and we cannot go further, we cannot develop, we cannot become better because we are tagged and overburdened by all this mishigasin and craziness of the world and all my physical handicaps and all my spiritual handicaps. Or we can put ourselves the garments of godliness and we can say that's the purpose of life, and that's my agenda, and that's my compass. My compass is my godly soul. My compass is the Torah. That's my compass in life. Do I have to deal with all these mishigasim? Yes, that's life. I'm a human being. I have all this baggage, but they're baggage. They're things that I can drop once in a while. There are things that I can get rid of. I can get rid of these hang-ups maybe. I can drop these attributes. I can refine it for surely. I can tune it. I can think about it less. I don't need to think about it so much because I can think about better things. I can think about more godly things. So that's the beauty of this statement over here. The Alter Rebbe says, as a result, if you just read it again and again, as a result of such contemplation, the attribute of love which is in the soul will, a matter of course, divest itself of its garments. We need to get out of the garments of machshava, dibur, and maisa, the thought, speech, and action of our animalistic soul, that we are constantly only worried and care about these mundane matters that have no value ultimately, that are valueless. And if I can do that, if I can have, so here, it's so beautiful this, if I can just talk to myself, if I can just have his abundance and godliness to think about this, I'm automatically going to get out of all these things in my life. I will be able to separate myself from these concepts that are bogging me down. Now, again, will I lose these concepts? Maybe not. But it's become tafel. It'll become secondary to me. It's part of life, but is it life itself? No. It's a necessity, an evil necessity. It's a physical necessity. It's not the purpose of my existence. The Gemara says that Hillel, when you would go to eat, you would say, okay, now I have to go and give my body its necessity. Yes, do I need to really eat? No. Well, my godly soul needs to eat, but my godly soul is in the body, and I need to give my body its necessity, and I need to give it its food, and therefore let's go and give the body what it needs. Our self-pursuit, we're not going to be Hillel, and I don't think that's our agenda. We need to be a little bit more spiritual, which we all could be a little bit more spiritual, and it does takes contemplation. It takes meditation a little bit to think about these things. And the Alter Rebbe promises you that it promises me that if I would think about these things, if I would contemplate these things, if I would understand these things and learn it a little more, it's going to automatically, because you don't live in a vacuum. So automatically you're going to divest yourself. You're going to take yourself away from these other matters. They'll become secondary. They'll become less important. I read a story yesterday, a story of Lag Baimer, coming to Lag Baimer above my time already, that Lag Baimer, if you were ever in Crown Heights and Lag Baimer, you know it was the parade that ever used to make parades on Lag Baimer. It was many years in Lag Baimer, New York, and I was by the parades. And the one who ran the parades was Rabbi Yaakov Yehuda Hecht, J.J. Hecht. He was known J.J. Hecht. He was the one who ran the parades, and he was very involved. He ran the parades, he would repeat, he would translate the Rebbe's Sikha, the Rebbe's talk in Yiddish, the Rebbe spoke to the kids in Yiddish, and he would translate it into English. He was a fascinating, unbelievable man, Rabbi J. He's Vatpish in my neighborhoods. I knew him very personally. And so he said a story that one year, which year was in the 80s, at a parade, the night before the parade, he was like depressed. He was extremely overburdened with this parade, thousands upon thousands of kids. And it was actually the first year was going to go live on TV. It was too much for him. He wrote to the Rebbe. He said, I can't do this. And the Rebbe wrote him back a letter. No, you can't do it. Don't worry. You're going to do a great job. Don't worry. It's going to be an unbelievable day. And this is actually video. You can see this on a video at that parade. At the end of the parade, you see the Rabbi JJ go over to the Rebbe. He says something to him, and he said, I said to the Rebbe, you dragged me out of my mother shchayda. Thank you, Rebbe. You dragged me out of my mother shchayda. You dragged me out of my depression. And you see the Rebbe go like this. And he said, the Rebbe said to me, no, I uplifted you. I uplifted you. And you see the Rebbe on the video go like this to Rabbi JJ. I uplifted you. I didn't drag you out of your mother shchayda. I just uplifted you. If we don't have to go out of mother shchayda. We don't have to go out of these negative things. We have to uplift ourselves. If we can uplift ourselves, if we can go a little higher, we will be automatically everything. All those things would fall away. All the negativity would fall away because we are lowering ourselves. We are diminishing ourselves. That's why we fall into these negative things. If we can just uplift ourselves, which by learning godliness, by connecting to God, we uplift ourselves. We uplift ourselves. And by uplifting ourselves, automatically, that's what the Rebbe says, automatically these things fall away because you uplifted yourself. You uplifted yourself. And that's what Chassidut came to the world to do. Uplift yourself. You're holier. We're not so. Even though we are humans and we're physical, but we have a godly soul. We have a Torah. We could be a little bit higher at the same time that we are human beings. We could be what human beings should be. God wanted that every human being should be a little higher, even though he's part of creation. But at the same moment, he's a whole different level than everything else that was created in the world, than even the animals of the world. He's a little higher. Shich Milamala, he's a little bit higher than everything else in the world. My friends, as we come to the end, we're past my time already. I always go past my time. I want to say that we should not lose. I don't want anybody to lose the day that's coming up, Tuesday, Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer of Shimon Bar Yochai, and we should realize that what he wanted on that day is one thing: is simcha. Be happy. Be happy. He said, if you are besimcha on this day, you're going to enjoy in my simcha. So it's brought down in many places that we, if we can be besimcha, because this great sage, which none of us in this Zoom room has met, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but we have Amunas Chachamim. You can learn Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. You can learn him in the Mishnah, in the Gemara, and in Kabbalah for sure. You can learn Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. You can know what this great sage stood for, and what he accomplished in the world, and what he wanted. Self-understood. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. If you learned Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who the sage was, he not only wanted spiritual things in the world, he cared about every single Jew in the world. He cared about. You read the stories of Shimon Bar Yochai. He cared about Jewish people, and he stood up for Jewish people. Even as I mentioned last night in the story of Abdullah, he struggled. He fought with God to protect Jewish people. He was that entity that brought out to the world what a beauty of the Torah is. That's not only beautiful in its spiritual concepts and its intellectual. It's in its beauty, in its worldly aspects, caring of another human being. And he said that I want you to be happy on Lag BaOmer. That's all he asked of the Jewish people. He asked of them, I want you to be happy. I want you to be happy. And that's why Jews throughout history would go to Miran. And what do you think these Jews did in Miran? 200,000 Jews, or 300, I don't know how many, hundreds of thousands of Jews. They would dance a whole night. Dance. They would dance. That's what they did there. Danced. Why? Because this sage said, be happy. I want you to be happy today. And if you're going to be happy, I'm going to uplift you. I'm going to uplift you. So you might say, oh, I don't know if that's true or not. How can that say? Try it. I'm asking you to have a munas chachamim, to have faith in the words of the sages. And this was a great Tana, and his teachings affect the world until today. And we are all connected. We just learned Kabbalah, Chassidus, which is all connected to his teachings. And he said, I'm asking you one thing to do on this Tuesday, Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer. I want you to be the simcha. And if you are going to be the simcha, I'm going to take you out. I'm going to uplift you for all your, there's an expression of the Gemara. It says, and the Rebbe would always say this expression. It says, Kedai lismech al Rabbi Shimon b'shas hadchak. It's kedai. It's worthy to trust on this great sage in a time of need. And Rabbi Shimon said that in a time of need, this Tuesday, on the 33rd day of the Omer, if you're going to be happy and you're going to be the simcha, I'm going to uplift you from all your issues. Try it. I challenge us all to try it, to be happy on this coming Tuesday, starting Monday night. Maybe dance around the table if it takes that. Be happy. Learn about Rabbi Shimon on Tuesday. Learn something of his teaching. Be happy. Celebrate and say, I'm celebrating, and have in mind, I'm celebrating because of this Tana, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. That's why I'm celebrating. I'm telling you, it's going to uplift you. You're going to be uplifted. There's no question in my mind. And it's going to be a whole different reality. So I'm begging of you, try it out this Tuesday. Be happy. Learn something on Tuesday or Monday night. Be part of the Lag BaOmer. We're having a barbecue pickup on Tuesday. You can still order your hot dog and hamburger and Coke. I know that Baruch Hashem, you have food in the house. It's not the point. The point is to be part of us and come and we'll have a little music and some excitement on that day to bring joy within Jews. We understand that it's not your food that you need. It's the being part of the joy of the day, trying to create some joy in the situation we're in. Usually we have a bonfire at night and we have a picnic in the day. We try to bring joy. This year it's going to be a little bit different. It'll be an inner joy, but come on Tuesday, be part of it. And if you didn't sign up yet, please do, and pick up your hot dog and hamburger. I know that you don't need it, but that's not the point. The point is to be part of the Simcha of Shimon Bar Yochai, that we're happy, we're celebrating, and each and every one of us celebrating with a hot dog and a hamburger, and with some music, and with some joy, and with being together and coming together a little bit. And Shimon Bar Yochai is going to uplift us. He's going to uplift us, as the Rabbi said. I uplifted you. I'm going to uplift you for all your issues. And God, I pray that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, I can take away judgment from the world. I myself, and if he can do that, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, I challenge you. Now, take away judgment from the world. Let's do it. Let's say that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai take away judgment, but we have to be happy on Lag BaOmer. So I wish you a wonderful day. God bless you all. I love you all. It's great to learn with you all. And I'm going to get off of Facebook. If someone wants to say something,